Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this morning's webinar. I'm Patricia Kingston from Tourism NI, and I'm sure most of you probably know me by now if you've been at any of the previous webinars so far. Today is the second in our sales focused webinars, and this morning we're going to be looking at digital sales growth with Michelle Connolly from ProfileTree. Michelle's also going to be sticking around to answer some of your questions at the end, so be sure to pop any that you may have into the question box, which you'll find on your control panel, and you can do that all throughout the session. And I'll be asking those questions at the end. We're absolutely delighted once again to also be offering some short one-to-one calls with our expert for any NI-based tourism and hospitality industry registered to attend this session. So I'll be explaining a little bit more about that later on. As you know, this webinar is being delivered as part of Tourism NI's ongoing Tourism Enterprise Development Programme. So we're working hard to deliver a programme that will continue to help the tourism industry survive and recover from what's been a really unique past year. So we're constantly reviewing and evolving the programme based on your needs. So just please do keep letting us know what other topics you'd like to see in future. As always, you'll be receiving a link to an evaluation form following today's session. So just make sure you fill that in, and then we can continue to tailor the programme of events to your needs. Alongside the TED webinars, there's also a whole range of support materials. You might have looked at some of these already, but we're constantly updating it. So you can check tourismni.com and covid19.tourismni.com. And again, I'll be talking a wee bit more about that later on. So I hope you enjoyed this morning's webinar. I'll be back at the end, as I've said, to ask Michelle some of your questions. So just a final reminder to pop those into the chat box during the session. And now, without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Michelle Connolly to get started with the main presentation. Good morning, Michelle. Over to you.
Morning, everyone. I'm just going to start sharing my screen, if that's okay. So welcome. We're going to be talking about all things digital strategy this morning. And as Patricia said, look, if you do have some questions that pop up into your mind as we go through the presentation, do feel free to pop them into the chat box. But we're going to be looking at, I suppose, what do you need to be including in your digital strategy, and how things have changed a little bit, and those sort of up and coming trends around the digital tourism sector. So I suppose really the first thing we want to really think about is why bother with a digital strategy? What is the point of it? Why is it important? I suppose it's never been more important to be visible online. Obviously, with current situation and how the world has changed in the last year, being online has become even more prevalent and even more important. We all know that everything is digital today at the minute, and of course, as we start to open up again, we will go back to some form of normal. But for the last year, new consumer habits have been being formed, and things have changed. The way people buy, the way people think, the way people access information has changed. Our customers are definitely getting more used to shopping online. More content is being consumed online, and people are getting used to paying for digital subscriptions. So the question is, how is your business fitting into this trend at the moment? I suppose the first thing we need to be aware of is that digital is a long-term strategy. We have to be patient to get results, and we have to invest a good bit of time and energy into it to achieve these results. Writing a blog piece or creating a video isn't going to bring you loads of traffic to your website or to your social media overnight. So it is a long-term strategy. It is something that we do need to work at. And it is becoming harder, and it is becoming more expensive to win in digital every day. So the best time to really focus and really get started is today. The more we put it off, the harder it gets. There are so many opportunities online, and we're seeing these arise day in, day out. People changing their business models, people changing how they're accessing information online, and we can sell to the whole world using digital to create a business in the cloud. And that's not to say that when we return to face-to-face offerings that we can't have a hybrid model, that we still can't leverage these digital platforms, but also do the face-to-face, which is so important in the tourism sector. So today is really about how do we spot those opportunities and how do we plan for them within our strategy going forward. So what I'm just showing you here is a little image on the slide, and it's a brand that we've been working with. And you can see pre-2020, they didn't exist online. You can see on the graphs. And today they have over 13,000 monthly visits from Google and rank for over 6,000 keywords. And it's because they've been laser focused. They've followed their own digital strategy. They planned out what they wanted to do and they've actually stuck to it. And the main reason we generally see people fail online is that they don't take action. You really need to think about what you're going to do and take that action. So to succeed in digital, we really need to be we need to think about different ways of creating that content, but also we need to be consistent. We need to create consistent, well thought out content for our customers, and that's across the website and social media. We need to be online wherever our customers are, and that's really, really key. Sometimes we can get very easily distracted by new platforms, new social media, new trends, but you need to be where your customers are. And if you haven't got to the point of creating content yet, maybe you don't have a website yet, or you're just dabbling in social media, you can engage with visitors' content. You can go on to Google reviews and make comments. You can go on to TripAdvisor. If you think about it, people are constantly asking questions. If you engage with them online, on social media, on TripAdvisor, you can actually introduce them to your brand, even if you don't have a website or a social media presence yet. And I suppose what we often see is that people aren't sure what they're doing and they don't have goals. And it means that all that effort and all those resources are being wasted. You don't get a return on your activities, and then you get impatient and you give up. So you really do need to have a strong goal and a strong purpose for what you want to get out of your digital strategy. So if you do have a pen and paper or your iPad or your phone in front of you, think about the answers to these questions, the first words that come into your mind. So what is your aim? What is your target? Where do you want to get to? Is it that you want 500 people to visit your website every month? Is it that you want to be #1 in search results for the experience that you offer? Is it that you want to convert 5 leads per month via your website? It's really, really important that you have a purpose for creating all this online content and for really reaching out and chatting to people online. The next thing I would challenge you to think about is, who is your audience? And what's really, really, really important here is, who are you targeting for 2021? The audience that you were targeting last year might be a completely different audience this year. Things have changed. People are looking for different things. They're looking for the information in a different way. And you might actually even be completely, if you were focused on an international market, you may not be focused on them right at the minute. That will come back, but right at this minute, you may not be focused on that. You may be focused on a lot more local market. And you really need to think about that. Who is your audience? Because how you target them, what your offering is, and where you target them will be very different to maybe what you were doing last year. And again, a really, really, really important question I would really, I suppose, challenge you to think about is, do you know your customer well? Do you check your analytics to see what they do when they arrive onto your website? What do they search for? What are they reading? What are they engaging with? Where are they going on your website? What information is constantly being accessed and read and consumed? And I do guarantee you'll be surprised and you'll find opportunities within those numbers. It's really, really important, again, because this data, the data that you were maybe looking at last year, will actually look different this year. You'll start to see those more local offerings maybe being accessed. You'll start to see things that are, I suppose, focused maybe on staycations are maybe being more accessed. So it is important to have a look at those analytics and actually use them to your advantage to see what people need to know on your website, and are you giving people the information that they do need to know on your website? Have you accessed the content you're putting out, especially on your website? Have you looked at or assessed, have you assessed the content that you're putting out on your website? This may need updated, it may need refreshed, you might need more detailed content added, even descriptions on things like accommodation. Have you got the cleaning protocols there? Have you got the list of outdoor spaces or activities or experiences nearby? Are you leveraging key elements from around the area? Because again, what people were looking for last year in terms of experiences related to accommodation has changed. They're looking for different things, and it's so important to be aware of that. So for example, if you have an article, top things to do, these will have changed. So you might need to refresh or update that content. But I would say, and I'm going to say with loads of asterisks, a word of warning, please don't delete anything from your website. So if you want to refresh or rewrite something or update it, please don't delete it, because this will actually affect your SEO. So just leave old content there and maybe write a refreshed or an updated version. You don't want to affect the fact that you've worked hard to maybe gain keywords from that old content, and that old content will obviously come back and will be useful again as the market changes and things start to open up again. And last thing is, do you allocate enough time or budget to digital? So to highlight, 20 minutes per day, 5 days a week is 7 hours per month. So it doesn't take long to add up. Are you able to invest some time to get results? And it is so important that you think about that. Now, we're just going to talk a little bit about the buying stages, because this is really, really important in terms of the digital strategy. As we all know, there are different stages in the buying process, and we should be aware of these when planning out our strategy, because we should always be planning to be there at those different buying stages. We should be ensuring that we provide the key information that travellers need at each stage, because that information is slightly different at each stage. So we have the dreaming stage, which is of course the initial phase. Prospective travellers are open to all possibilities. They haven't made a firm decision about where to go or what to do, or what maybe experiences they're looking for. You need to be in the mix. So at this stage, you're starting to think about ranking or targeting more general key search terms, destination search terms, making sure that you are in the mix when people are thinking about where to go, what to do, what to experience. And then of course we move on to the planning stage. At this stage, travellers have usually decided on a destination, but they're still flexible about their dates, their accommodation, the activities that they want to do when they get there. Again, can you factor into these plans? What do you offer? Are you being part of this? Are you being considered as part of this destination search? And then of course we have booking. This is when dates, travel plans are made, accommodation preferences are all confirmed. This is the time when travellers are starting to make those reservations. And again, are you in the mix? Are you aligning yourself to that idea of when people are booking accommodation? If you're an experienced provider, are you linked? Are you coming up in search when people are looking for those destination keywords? And then experiencing. Travellers are now on their trip and they're sharing their adventures online. At this stage, they may also be searching for ad hoc activities and experience while in destination. So again, thinking about how you can target potential customers at each stage. So to put this in context, for example, if your products are city tours, you'll have the ability to influence visitors into choosing one of your destinations, advise them, for example, the best time of year to visit, highlight how easy your booking process is, offer the chance to purchase tickets flexibly while they're in destination. This is an important part where we start to build, I suppose, that whole package, and we really start to think within that digital strategy. Are we accessing potential customers at every opportunity, at all those different touch points? And then back to the experiencing, this is the point where we actually create those brand ambassadors or advocates that will share the brand or experience in the future. So again, we need to leverage those relationships and give people the information to be able to pass that on and share it. So do think about these different touch points, and we need to be creating targeted content to address the questions that potential visitors may have at each point, because I suppose their questions, the information that they need will be slightly different at each stage. And are you addressing that? So we kind of, as I say, we're starting to think about that digital strategy. We're starting to think about changing, refreshing, making sure that we are aware of those different buying opportunities. but also we want to look at new opportunities. How are things, what has changed? What are people looking for? So we want to spend our time on proven marketing fundamentals and not on hacks or tips that are relevant for today only. We want to look at these marketing fundamentals in spotting opportunities for now and the future. So all around us, all the time, there are emerging markets and new opportunities popping up. These are new opportunities, believe it or not. There have been opportunities created by COVID, the lockdown, Brexit, or more traditional things like changes in customer behaviour and demand. And of course, in normal business life, and I'm saying this with a laugh, in normal business life, normally only one of these challenges like COVID, the lockdown, Brexit, or changes in consumer behaviour would arise at any given time. But in 2020 and 2021, they're all happening at the same time, which is just amazing. You couldn't write it. So while these do create lots of hardships, and especially in the tourism sector, there's been lots of hardships, they do also create opportunities. And we will chat through some of these today. So we often hear that we can fix a real problem for people. If we fix a real problem for people, we'll have business for life. So we as business leaders need to spot opportunities for our business. Think about all the companies that have been able to pivot and offer a completely different range of experiences that they would probably never have envisioned or imagined. There's people offering online wine tasting, online museum tours, restaurants offering home delivery, and people selling their skills online for the first time ever. People who thought that, no, my skill is a very face-to-face offering, I could never do that online, are starting to move online. And back to what I'm saying about being mindful of that hybrid model. But the question is, how do we spot these opportunities? And I would suggest using Google Trends. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Google Trends, but it is a really, really, really great tool. It's a free tool. And as you can see on the screen, we have an image search here for the term staycation. You can see it was 12 months ago in the UK, so no one was, if you can see 12 months ago in the UK, February 2020, no one was really worried about this search term. Okay, people were searching for it, but not massively. But if you have a look after the first lockdown, you can see the big, massive spike in people starting to search for that term. So if you can take a note to something to do when this is over, this webinar is over, is go to google.com, type in Google Trends. When the web page opens, start to test your ideas. Start to test keywords that describe your business. I suppose keywords that describe your business that you currently offer. See if you can find hidden opportunities here. This is a live tool and it's incredible for market research. Not only will it help you, I suppose, ascertain what people are searching for, but it also gives you the top performing keywords underneath the chart, and you can see those for any country or region in the world. So it is a really great free tool, and one that basically I start all my searches with when I'm doing new video content, new marketing research, or doing research for clients. It's such a great tool to be able to spot those opportunities and spot trends across the globe. Here it is. So this is what I was talking about below. So this is what you see below, I suppose, the graph at the top. It's basically the search technology of Google, which is worth over £1 trillion. So every year. So it's a very good tool to be able to use. So as you can see here, we have, back to what I was saying, related keywords. So you've got holiday camp, holiday cottage, staycation ideas, and you can see here staycation ideas is up 250%. That's what people are searching for. UK staycation ideas is up 140%. And if you can see on the left, you have lodging and lake breakout. Breakout actually means it has jumped over 5,000% in search volumes. So if you find a key search term that's related to your business that has the word breakout beside it, that means that it has jumped over 5,000% in search volumes. So again, we're looking for those little nuggets of opportunity that we can leverage and start to jump on the bandwagon and start to create content that actually addresses those search terms. And again, Possibilities. Here we see the term local holiday, and this is in America over the past 12 months. So we know the USA didn't have as an intense a lockdown as the UK. So does this beckon a possible trend we'll see over the next 12 months? If you see the dotted line on the right of the chart, this is the Google algorithm, and this is predicting the search volume jumping over the next months. So again, you can see local holiday, another search term that has just been really going through the roof, that people are actually looking for within, I suppose, their searches and trying to find something to book. So I'm going to move on now to talk about Google Maps. And again, this is all stuff that we should be thinking about having in place at the beginning of our digital strategy. We should be thinking about that audience. We should be thinking about those keywords. We should be thinking about our purpose and our targets. But we should also be thinking about the channels that we're using and making sure that we have all the information there for our customers to be able to book. So Google Maps is an incredible free tool that really every business should be using. So on this slide, your task is to take 10 minutes today and check your profile on Google Maps. If you don't have one, go and take the time to create one. Sign in via Google My Business and see what new features are available since you last logged in, because this is constantly being updated with features. The last statistic I had from Google on the number of monthly users for Google Maps was 1.5 billion. So it is one of the most popular mapping tools in the world. Your customers use it, and possibly every time they're looking for a local business, they buy from it. So some things to check, so this is your homework, some things to check: is your phone number and address correct? Have you a post up about COVID and your current operating procedures? Have you listed all your services? How many photos and videos can you add from your mobile phone or computer right now to update your profile? And that does not take any time at all, especially if you use the app on your phone, you can upload them directly. Can you get your profile link and share it with customers to write a review? And this is a good opportunity if we're doing little mail shots or newsletters, we can ask for reviews as well. Are you using it to post events? Are you using it to post updates? These are all easy things to do, but they will also have an incredible impact on your digital profile, because this, again, back to touch points and customer buying phases, this is one of the key, probably first touch points that people will come across when they are researching your business or researching things to do around your niche. Now we're going to talk, I suppose, this is a good point to talk about omni-channel marketing. So it sounds great, but what it really means is marketing across multiple channels and platforms. And the key thing I'm going to say here is with consistency, or with a consistent voice. What we see, again, is the biggest mistake that people make when they're creating a digital strategy is that it's not aligned and it's not consistent. People are doing one thing on Facebook, they're doing something else on their website, they're targeting somebody else on Instagram, and nothing is consistent. Sometimes people even have different brandings across the different platforms, and it's almost hard to recognize that this is the same business offering the same services. So we all aim to reach our customers in different ways and different platforms, and that's not to say that every single post has to be the same. Of course it isn't, because we're trying to make sure that we're following the different platforms and how people access different information. But have you thought how you do this? How do you link all the channels together? Your social media, your email, your website. What we want is to have a strategic approach to engage with customers. What is your overall strategy? Are all touch points redirecting travelers to buy? This is about, I suppose this is about the mindset, avoiding the mindset of, oh, I haven't posted on Facebook this week, I better get something up there. And that's generally what happens. People think, oh, I haven't posted in a while, I'll just put something up. But is that aligned to your strategy? Is it focused on the keywords? Is it focused on your purpose? So where do you want customers to go? Where do we want to direct people? Is it your website? What action do you want them to take? Is it to purchase or make a booking? Where are your customers? So back to your audience. Are they most likely to be on LinkedIn or Instagram? As the user profiles are different, but we want to have the same consistent voice. So wherever your user is, you need to focus, but with your goal in mind. So for example, you might want to target the B2B market to solve a certain problem for them. So I'm thinking, you know, at the minute, back to how things have changed and what people are looking for. I know at the minute we can't all get together, but that corporate offering is really, really changing. People are looking for ways to treat their staff, to get their staff together, especially with working from home. Obviously, I know we can't do it at the minute, but in the next few months, hopefully we'll be there. So for example, LinkedIn, that might be possibly the best social channel to target that corporate offering. And you want to try to encourage them to connect and chat with you, to visit your website and book your service. You will get noticed by engaging with them in an effective way on their LinkedIn posts. So it's not just about posting yes or no, or yes, that's brilliant, but can you really engage and talk to them? Or can you post really useful content about your service and the problem that you solve on LinkedIn and encourage engagement by being active there? And then when you go to Instagram and you've got a similar offering, is that voice consistent but tweaked just enough so that it matches the audience? Marketing, and I will say this, no matter what form, will actually cost you time and energy. So it is really, really important to try to get that organic engagement and interact with people on there to really push that and drive that forward. Sorry, moving on. So anyone that knows me will know that video for me is just, it's just such a useful tool. I would encourage anybody to do it, and it doesn't have to be Hollywood movie style. If anything that we've been taught during this whole last year is that people are so much more accepting of user generated content, real life content, webinars, video that is not highly produced. And there is a time and place for Hollywood style movies and show reels and everything else, but there's also a massive place for user generated content or content that you're able to create yourself on mobile phones. So back to that digital strategy, have you factored video into it? Is there a section in your digital strategy that says, this is my video strategy, what am I going to do? It's everywhere now. This workshop's video, people are accessing video at every opportunity. Great ways to do this: Zooms. Can you share your knowledge or experience through a Zoom? You can even create a video without appearing on screen, but be behind the camera and talk through your experience. Can you add these videos to YouTube? Of course, another platform with over 1.5 billion daily users from Google. Can you share these videos on social media as your social content? You'll get way more engagement from video than you will from other types of media. And that's not saying that you always will, but generally speaking, video gets a lot more engagement. Can you embed these videos into your website? So what we're saying is spend the time to make the videos, but leverage them, repurpose them, and make sure they go out onto different platforms. It's not about making a video once, sharing it once, and leaving it. It's actually leveraging that, and you'll get an incredible return on investment from video marketing by leveraging it and putting it across loads of different platforms. And beauty is customers just want the information or the content, and they want it quick, and video is a great way of doing this. So a quick question for you: in the last 48 hours, how many articles have you read? How many videos have you watched? So just think about that for a second. So with your trusty pen and paper, if we're using pen and paper now, or we're using iPads or whatever we're using, I'd like you to jot down what you think your next video might be. There's loads of different opportunities. What could you create a video on? It could be a short 30-second video to get you started. It might be a 10-minute video. And if you've never created a video before and want some tips, there are lots of videos out there from TNI and loads of other webinars that you can access about making video as well. So I'm going to talk about something that's actually, I suppose, really exciting. especially for the tourism sector, which is subscriptions. Now, the reason big tech companies like Apple are worth $2 trillion US is that they keep getting customers to buy and buy and buy again in cycles. So when we talk about your mobile phone, do you replace it every 2 years or do you wait 4 or 6 years? Most people rebuy the same type of phone again and again. Then there's software, the apps. How many do you own that are monthly or annually recurring? We have our business emails, we have our website hosting. Through our personal life, we have Netflix accounts, we have Amazon Prime, we have HelloFresh that delivers food to your door in a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly cycle. All these companies love subscriptions. And the reason it is because it turns people into long-term paying customers. Company finances are more predictable, customers are tied closer to the company, and it's a perfect model for business. So one business I'm going to mention, and you have a wee look up afterwards, is My Panera Coffee. It's a US-based coffee shop who launched a monthly subscription for unlimited hot and iced coffee or iced tea with Wi-Fi at $8.99 per month, and that was dollars, $8.99. The company has found that it simplifies their orders. It reduces waste of having to stock larger volumes of multiple drinks in every location, and it provides a predictable recurring revenue. They have had positive upsell opportunities into food products and as well as great customer loyalty. And what is really, really key here, and this is what I want to mention in terms of trends, is the subscription economy has seen 350% growth in the last 7 years, growing at an average of around 26% per annum. So that's far outstripping the regular economy. US research showed that 31% of millennials, people born from 1980 to 2000, and I constantly have this argument with people that I am just about a millennial. I've scraped in there. They currently have a subscription box service, with another 38% considering subscribing to one in the next 6 months. So it's amazing to see that the generations coming up, subscriptions is a part of their life. In 2019, there were in 2019, there were 15 million people with their own Amazon Prime account in the UK, but shared family accounts, and over 39% of the UK population use this subscription service. Netflix reached 12.4 million users at the end of 2019, so subscriptions are becoming the norm. So what about a subscription to accommodation or a hotel, where a monthly fee is paid and the customer can book 3 weekends and the accommodation across the year, but they're paying for it monthly? Or you create a members club where membership costs a certain fee per year and you get 20% off every booking over 12 months. Or could you combine upselling and subscriptions where you offer a toiletry range or a spa range on a monthly subscription so your customers can have that hotel feeling at home? Or could you do a monthly payment to a walking tour where you get to join one walking group per month with different subjects, maybe different historical contexts, maybe different areas? You can access that within 24 hours notice, but you're paying a monthly direct debit. So you're hooking people in, and you're offering that subscription model where people are loyal to you, loyal to your brand, and you're starting to generate a revenue that is constant and not dependent on the season. So take 20 seconds, have a think, and write down, what could you offer as a subscription? And our aim here is to create a regular monthly income, provide a unique experience for VIP customers, build great brand loyalty, i.e. the customer only goes to you for the service they purchase. Stand out from the crowd, be different, and use best practices to offer flexibility. I suppose the flexibility that customers are seeking. So we really do need to change how we think. For many businesses, it might not seem like an easy fix, but we need to think about giving our customers choice, security, ongoing support, and how can we build long-term relationships, especially in that local market. International tourism tends to be quite transactional. Somebody comes, they avail of your experience, your service, your product, and they go. And the beauty is, the thing we want most from that is that they share those memories, they share that experience with others. But can we build long-term relationships with the local population? And that's ROI, it's UK, it's Northern Ireland. And can we leverage those? Because long-term relationships are the new currency. We pay so much in time and money to win a customer. How can we keep them? And a subscription is a great way to catch a long-term customer. But do note, every time a customer sees that direct debit going out of their bank, there is a real chance that they could cancel your product or service. So it is important to keep them abreast and keep them updated. So we do need to deliver that real value for customers. We need to make sure that we're offering a subscription that keeps them attracted and keeps them wanting to pay more. Customers are king. So this has never been so true with the subscription. So it is something that you could consider. Now, we want to talk a little bit, I suppose, as well about new features across social media and how do these factor into your digital strategy. Again, it's not just about posting and jumping on to social media and putting loads of posts and loads of content out there. So if you're on a social media platform, you will know that they're constantly releasing new features. This is the same for Facebook, it's the same for Instagram, all the way through to YouTube, and even Google gets updates regularly. So if you've started on your social media journey and you're struggling, you're feeling that it's really hard to grow your business on there, people are not seeing your content, people are not engaging, you haven't had a social media account for years, so you haven't got that customer base built up. You may have just started on your customer journey or your business journey on social media. What you can do is look out for these new features and focus on them more than the core platform. So if you think about it, say there's a new advert type that has just been released. They will normally be cheaper than more regular adverts because the platform is testing them, is trialing them, is wanting to know how people are interacting with them. If it is a new platform feature, most people will not be using it. So you have the opportunity to steal a march on some of the competition and basically hack the system to introduce your brand to many more people. So instead of focusing on that uphill struggle of posting and posting and posting and posting and nobody seeing it, are there new features that you can leverage, that you can be part of to start growing your following? So, for example, Facebook launches a new feature. They want it to be a success. A few individuals jump in, start using it. And this is normally the power users or the influencers. The reason for this is they know it's a great way to get rapidly growing their brand. And Facebook will be very keen to promote any early adapters to this. Facebook will be keen to promote any early adapters to as many other people as possible to encourage them to start using the feature. So this is a great way to grow your brand. Have the platform promote you to their users as opposed to you having to pay. So can you leverage those new features to grow your brand a little bit more quickly? And it is staying on top of those. So just looking at this slide, in 2020, Facebook had shops, Instagram had shops, we had IGTV ads, we had badges in Instagram Live, we had live shopping, and we had green screen in Instagram story filters. So there was loads of different opportunities there to just jump on and be an early adopter and get your brand shared. And I suppose what we want to talk about is leading into influencers. Have you factored influencers into your digital strategy? Is this something that you've looked into? Is it something that you would consider? And maybe you can put in the chat yes or no. We'll get an idea of who might have considered this, or maybe some people that may have already used it. Now, I don't know about you, but I am starting to see influencers as giant billboards or adverts, and I think that it is a real risk for influencer marketing. Sometimes it really does feel like we're watching adverts all day, and I know it can get very frustrating, especially if you're looking at a social media feed and it's constantly filled with adverts. So this is what I'm asking you. If I'm paying less and less attention to large influencers, who am I watching? Who am I engaging with? And the answer probably is real people. We've heard about micro-influencers, people who are not just all about advertising. It's not about them just leveraging those relationships and getting paid loads of money about it. It's people who have small following of really genuine, really engaged people, which is so, so important. And often those people are our customers. These are our influencers. And these are our influencers, and these are the people that you might think that you would want to use to drive business to your experience, your accommodation, or your offering. And have you considered yourself as a micro influencer of your business? Because of course you are. You're posting, you're sharing your knowledge, you're sharing your expertise, you're impressing people, and you're generating leads and sales through just being online. So you need to be aware of micro-influencers out there that you might use, or being aware that you are actually a micro-influencer as well. So can you or should you be doing more? Should you be looking at your content? How can you think about promoting yourself better online? And it is interesting because, again, someone has just popped into the chat there saying just need to pick the correct one, and that is right. It's not about somebody who just wants a free holiday. You need to be very, very careful. You need to research them. You need to see if they align with your brand and actually talk to them, because you will know straight away if they're actually interested and their audience would be interested in what you're offering. There's no point in just choosing someone because they've got a massive following but they're not interested in what you do whatsoever, because that will not do anything for your brand. So it's really, really important that you choose people that align with your brand, that have an audience that would be interested. And I would actually say have a conversation and see if you can actually build a relationship with that person, because that relationship is going to be just as important as the influencing that they're going to do. Because if they like you and they know your brand and they understand you as a brand or as a business or as an experience, they're going to do a lot more and provide content that's a lot more engaging. So the next thing I'm going to just talk about is Pinterest. And this is not a new thing, but it is something I'm very passionate about and something that I think is massively, massively underused. Pinterest is often a social network that we overlook, but it's a social network that's very important, especially in the travel sector. And the reason I'm saying that is it is a social network where people are actively searching for inspiration with an intention to buy or book or purchase. So it's not about sharing and telling your life story. It's actually about research. It's actually about I actively want to get inspiration because I want to buy something, pay for something, or book something. The number of pinners engaging with shopping content in Pinterest has increased 44% since last year, and this grows year on year. Stats say that pinners are 3 times more likely to click through to a retailer's site from Pinterest than any other form of social media platform. So, I mean, that's massive. And at the beginning of 2019, Pinterest released their travel personas and trend report, and it was noted that 69% of travel pinners use Pinterest to discover travel services when deciding what to book. These pinners typically booked within 2 months of starting the research, and research included everything from what to bring to what to do. So it is massive in terms of people searching for your experience. So just to put it in context, Carnival, the cruise company, instead of directly promoting their services to customers, they created cruising tips Pinterest board. So instead of just saying, buy our cruise, it's so wonderful, you will love it, they actually created a whole Pinterest board called Cruising Tips, and aimed at those who were still thinking about going on a cruise or had recently booked. And these were guides that were a nice mix of what to expect when you go on a cruise, to how to stick to your exercise routine, just really nice tips that people were interested in. But if you think about it, people were engaging with, enjoying that content. Back to what we're saying about knowing your customer journey and knowing those different phases. They were grabbing people who were still thinking about booking. They were at the forefront. They were giving useful information, but it was their brand that was at the forefront of people's minds. So again, it's definitely a social network that I wouldn't overlook. I would really, really think about adding it into my digital strategy and making sure that you are leveraging. And of course, you can put videos on there and you get your direct link back to your website. So again, it's a very, very powerful social media that people sometimes forget about, but it's so integral and should be included as part of your digital strategy. I'm going to think about, and I'm going to stop talking soon and let you ask some questions, but we're going to talk about new platforms. Again, we're hearing new platforms every day, and it's really, really important that we think about those platforms and not jump on them because everybody else is doing it. So we've all heard of TikTok over the last year or so. It's went mad, especially with lockdown. And of course, the next hot one is Clubhouse, which is an audio platform. And of course, they did a very, very clever thing where they made it invite only and only certain people could get invites, and then you have to wait for someone to invite you, and everybody's talking about it and they've got a real buzz. So it's such a clever way to introduce the platform. TikTok, of course, is a mini video platform. Back to video again and how important it is, and travel is doing very, very well on TikTok. And again, if you've time and you can be early into these platforms, it will be much easier to build out your brand and business quickly. But is it right for your business? And that's something you need to think about. There's no point in saying, right, I'm going to do TikTok and I'm going to be an early adopter and I'm going to get all my stuff on there, but your audience aren't there. So be very, very mindful. Better to focus on platforms that are relevant to your business today, as sometimes, again, we don't know these new platforms, how they're going to go. Sometimes they go mad and get big. Other times it can get fizzle out and we never ever hear of it again. So if you think back a few years, we had Snapchat. It's not taken over the world. It's still very, very popular, but I don't think it's done as well as obviously the people who released it expected it to. But of course, it does have its own niche. And again, there may be parts of your audience that would be there as well. And again, I see just a wee question in there saying, is Clubhouse only available to Apple users? It is at the minute. So hopefully the Android version will come soon. But again, it's more focused on an almost podcast audio platform, which is again is a very, very interesting group. Now, the next thing I'm going to mention are shoppable posts. Now, interestingly enough, I've done a lot of research on this in the travel sector, and it's not something that the travel sector has jumped on straight away. But I do think it has potential. I did want to mention it because I do think in time the travel industry will be able to leverage these shoppable posts that are coming up. And I'm just going to play a little quick video here for everyone and take a quick drink of water. So that just gives you an idea, excuse me, an idea of shoppable posts. They are available on Instagram ads, Google ads, Facebook, or even YouTube ads. And basically what happens is someone can go in and make a purchase directly from the platform. So you don't need the fancy e-commerce site. You can go into your product base, take a photo of the item and sell on social media. Now this works, especially if, for example, you've pivoted your business, and at the minute you're maybe selling products. You could be an artisan food producer that does food tours, and that you can, excuse me, an artisan food producer that normally maybe your core business is food tours, but you've decided that you're going to sell products online. This could be really, really good for you. Trend in e-commerce for 2021 is to remove barriers, basically remove barriers for those to take payments. So it's about looking at the user journey. How easy can we make it for someone to contact you or buy on your website? If you're promoting your brand on social media, the customer usually has to leave the social media page, go to the website, add the product to the cart, go through the full checkout process, add payment details and more. But shopping on social media is so easy. And we need to remember that people are forming shopping habits right now. So over the last few months, shopping habits have changed so much. It's hard to believe, but a lot of people are now shopping on social media. So again, is this an opportunity for you to leverage this? What I have seen in the travel sector is hotels leveraging this. So they actually have a lovely video of their hotel room, but they have items that you can buy to have the hotel experience at home. So that could be toiletries, spa, towels, dressing robes, and you can actually directly buy from just having a nice video or an ad from the hotel room. And it's very, very interesting. So again, it's maybe not something that's right on our doorstep at the minute, but something definitely to be mindful of, because customers are obviously actively researching products on social media and usually getting ready to make a real purchase. They're now expecting multi-channel shopping and a brand experience. So again, back to that loyal following and leveraging that loyal following. So it is important that just keep it on your radar to see if there is a way that you can leverage those shoppable posts, because it's, again, a very interesting concept. So I'm going to fly through these last few slides because I'm aware of time. So just a quick slide around content marketing. If you can just look at the stats there, and this video will be available afterwards, so you can go back and have a look at these. But looking again at what types of content you can create on your website, on social media, I'm really thinking, are there other different, can you mix it up a bit? Can you have videos? Can you have infographics? Do you have case studies? Do you have checklists? Do you have interviews with your staff talking about the amazing things that they do and the experience that they're going to give your customers when they come? I don't want to leave off email leads, because again, tend to be less glamorous, not usually at the forefront of everybody's digital marketing strategy compared to maybe other social media and the features on there, but they are still one of the most effective ways to get news out to your customers about your business and what you're selling. So if you think for a few seconds, how many of you signed up for this webinar through an email or through a newsletter that you got from TNI or their Spotlight? How much time have you spent in your email inbox already? Is it the old reliable, yet amazing how many, it is the old reliable, but amazing how many people don't do it. So I suppose my question for you on this slide is, how can you improve or introduce email marketing to your customers? Is it by sending a newsletter of tips and advice? Is it by giving people updates? Is it by maybe offering a small discount? And again, back to this local market, back to the staycation market, back to the domestic market, this is where your offers and your updates will maybe come in a little bit more than those international tourists. So think about that around your email marketing strategy and how you are portraying the information and what information are you giving out. And of course, the best thing about emails is that you can build a genuine relationship directly with your customers without being controlled by rules like of a social media network. I mean, we are all slaves to the rules of social media. If they change a rule, we all have to change. So also you're reducing your reliance on platforms that are less under your control. So if Facebook changes tomorrow, you still have an email section or part of your strategy that you're again using another outlet just to really interact with your customers. So do think about keeping that relationship and building that loyalty, because email is a great way of doing that. I do also want to talk about voice search, because again, another big thing which is really, really, really important. We're all getting used to voice search now in our daily lives. We've got Alexa, we've got Google, it's searching for us. You know, I know in my house, poor Alexa's tortured with the questions that's constantly being asked of it. And we have a few different versions of voice at the minute. And it's very relevant now, as there are stats showing up that over 50% of searches in Google are now by voice. And of course, how people search by voice is very different to how they search when they type something into Google. So for those who are slightly more advanced in SEO, there is a thing called schema on your website where you can optimize a website for voice search. So have a wee look at that and just check that you are optimized for voice search. But a few tips for anyone who wants to maximize all their own opportunities. So things that work very well for voice search are focusing on FAQ sections on your website or page. People tend to ask questions in voice, and you want to be the one providing the answer when possible. Consider when and why people would use voice. Is it when their hands are full, maybe doing something around the house or even driving? That's when they would be using voice search. So think about what they might be asking when they're doing those activities. And also to note, the results are often faster. So it's quicker to speak a question and have an answer read back to you than it is for you to type in a question and read the answer back after clicking through to a result. So Google My Business or Google My Maps is very, very important for voice, as so many searches are near me. So what's the best restaurant near me? What's nearest? What's the best hotel near me? So hence, back to that importance of having a Google Map profile and making sure the information on there is updated and correct. I'm going to move on to messaging apps, and I'm not going to talk massively on these, but again, customers are getting very used to having messaging apps now on desktop or mobile devices. And these apps can have international options. They include SMS and Facebook or WhatsApp messaging. So for example, Respond.io integrates with multiple messaging platforms. Mobile Monkey is focused on Facebook platforms, and both these apps do have a free plan, so there's no reason for any business not to try and offer better customer service to their clients. So they're definitely worth trying out and see how they can improve your productivity. So do have a wee look through them and see how they might filter into your business, or how you can integrate them into your offering, or how people are contacting you or accessing information. Now, I do want to talk about third-party platforms, and specifically Airbnb, because back to this domestic offering, back to this lockdown offering, back to people not being able to open, are there alternative I suppose offerings that we can make to reach that international audience? Are there alternative offerings that we can reach our domestic market? And what platforms can we be using to leverage those people and find those people? And Airbnb Experiences is one of those platforms. So it's a great way to develop an online experience. So this gent is from Galway. He is an Irish man's guide to Irish whiskey, and it's an online experience. So whereas this gent, I'm sure, would have done face-to-face tours or tastings, he's now leveraged that online platform to offer online experiences. And you can see here that he has 191 reviews. So he's had 191 people, I would assume, has partaken in this experience. And he basically pops on online and he chats through his guide to Irish whiskey. So again, back to that hybrid model, can we be offering a mixture of online and offline? When the time comes, we can obviously get back out onto the face-to-face, but at the minute, is there a way that we can pivot our business? Do we have a strategy for digital offering? Is this a strategy that we can carry forward and offer in a merged situation, I suppose? I did also want to show you things that people are doing face-to-face as well. This doesn't always have to be online, because I do think Airbnb Experiences is a great way of, again, leveraging a third-party platform and being visible to people who are actively back to that buyer journey actively booking accommodation, so they want to have something to go with it in terms of activities, experiences. They're actively on the platform, so can you leverage that? So Cave Hill at night with Big Dave, so somebody doing something a little bit different that maybe you wouldn't experience before. And the reason I chose this one is because I'm just thinking for the domestic market. I mean, I wouldn't really, I don't know, I wouldn't go on the Cave Hill at night by myself, but I might go if it was a guided tour. So thinking about maybe different offerings that you might have for the domestic market that would attract them to want to participate. Now, this one is really, really interesting. So this gent is called the Irish Village History, Culture and Crack. And basically he goes on, he talks, he has a chat with people, he does some tours, he gives information, he does historical tours. So interestingly, how many reviews do you think this gent has? So just put it in your head and have a think about it. How many reviews does he have? And I can tell you that he actually has 1,260 reviews. So that's 1,260 people have actively used his online experience or availed of it. And he is just probably doing what he would normally have done face-to-face online. And I'm just going to flick on because this is his booking schedule. So he is sold out at £15 per person tonight at 1 AM or last night at 1 AM. So you can see who's accessing it. It's clearly not a domestic market here. And he's booked out at 10 to 11. He's booked out at half 11 to half 12. So he's actually actively booking out these sessions. He's doing private groups and he's also doing individuals. So if you think he's 1,100 or 260 reviews, and even if everybody only paid £13, it is another viable income stream that he can actually scale. And I think investment, just his time, creativity, 100%. And if you think about having an additional revenue stream and scalability, so he is only one person. He could never have a tour with 100 people on it. It would just be too much, but he can online. So again, think about those opportunities that are existing out there, and people are actively looking for things to do online because they can't leave the house at the minute. And I did promise I'm going to start talking, so I've only 2 more slides. So online collaboration, again, really, really important. And I've just pulled up Taste Causeway here, and a lot of you will know Taste Causeway, some of you may even be part of it. But again, thinking about how can you collaborate with your peers, with people in your niche, with people who are not in your niche, to offer an online offering or make an online offering or a digital product that you might not be able to make on your own. So as I say, it may be a tour guide teams up with a wine producer or a gin distillery, and the tour guide takes you on a tour of where the thing is produced and everything else, and you get a nice box delivered to your house and you do some gin tasting. Is there a way to leverage relationships with peers in your market and to collaborate together online to offer something really unique, really different that people would be interested in? And that is, again, internationally and for the domestic market. How can we do something a little bit different when people are sitting in their houses and we're all very, very attuned to the shop local at the minute? So can we leverage that shop local relationship as well to provide these experiences for people in the domestic market that, you know, will become very loyal customers, and we can leverage those relationships going forward. I'm just going to talk about the good old hockey stick growth. Really, really important about being creative and taking time. Back to digital is not an overnight thing. Obviously, we have the people who have the overnight viral videos and the overnight viral success. The majority of people, you have to work at it and you have to stick with it. You need to be creative, and I do think a hybrid model is going to be something in the future, because how can we merge online and offline to create the best solution? People's mindset has changed. People are used to now digitally accessing information as well. So how do we offer that hybrid solution? How do we take the best of digital behavior and build that into our plan? So for example, millennials who are used to using subscriptions, how can we upsell them to maximize on that? Scalability. How do you scale your offering, especially if you're a sole trader or a small team? And digital revenue streams. Are there digital revenue streams that you can leverage? E-commerce, subscription boxes, online experiences. And this, I suppose, the hockey stick is really what digital marketing for any business is like. It seems at the start not much is happening, but this can go on and on and on. Then suddenly things start to fall into place, results start to come in, and then we see surging growth. But in order to get to that growth section, we need to be patient, we need to be consistent, you need to build that audience, you need to engage with your customers and prospects online, and you need to invest in your audience, which is providing information that they need, being creative around getting that information to them, and targeting them, actively targeting them at those different points within that buyer journey. And most importantly, not giving up, because we do all start very little at the beginning and it does build up. So I am going to stop talking now, and you'll be all glad to hear after I've been ranting on for the last hour. So do, if you want to put any questions into the chat box, and I'll happily answer those as we go through. And as I say, this should be available afterwards, so you can avail of it and go through it at your leisure, and check off all your homework tasks as you go.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Lots and lots and lots of really useful information there, and so much for everybody to take in. So yeah, absolutely. We're going to do our best to get the recording from today's session up in the next day or so, and then everyone can review it again at their leisure, and maybe just go back and look at it a little bit again, or watch the whole thing again. I'll also be sharing some of your questions with Michelle shortly, as Michelle mentioned. So if you've any that you haven't yet popped into the chat, get those in the next minute or two, and I'll be sure to get through as many as I possibly can this morning. Just before we get stuck into the questions, I'm just going to do a couple of very quick polls just to get a feel for how you find the session today so far. So the first one will pop up on your screen shortly here, and it's just, how would you rate today's session in terms of content and relevance to your business? So that's on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being not relevant at all, and 5 being extremely relevant. Okay, just give everyone a little chance to fill that in. We've got great turnout today, so it's taken a little minute for everyone to press their buttons. The second is just a very easy yes or no question, and it's really just, do you plan to go out and do something as a direct result of what you've heard from Michelle today? I know Michelle's been giving you little bits of homework, so I'm hoping that'll be a yes for a lot of people. So much to think about. And as I mentioned earlier, as always, we'll be issuing a short survey via email after the session. So your feedback just means that we can keep delivering the topics that you need. So if you do have a minute or two just to fill that in, then we'd really appreciate that. That'll be coming through on a link later on. So now I'll just say hi again to Michelle for today's Q&A session. We'll get stuck in on the questions. Michelle, thank you so much for that. My brain's buzzing. I've been writing lots of notes and all these things I hadn't heard of before as well. I know obviously early on in the presentation you were talking about knowing your audience, and we did have a comment from Emer, who's joining us here today. He was just pointing out the domestic market is just very, very different from the international market, in particular in terms of what they're willing to pay. And I think you sort of touched on that in terms of, you know, there's things that we in Northern Ireland, we would just do that ourselves anyway, and we don't feel like we need a guide, but sometimes there's other things we can think of. Any insights maybe you could share on that, Michelle?
Yeah, and I think it's probably that mixture of your offering and pivoting that offering and changing up a little bit to suit the domestic market, whereas we have international tourism, and especially if that's your market that you're used to, they're very new, they're interested in the history, they don't know anything about it. Whereas domestic market, potentially depending on what you're offering, they maybe have already been there, they've maybe already experienced it. But are there little intricacies? Is there something different that you can offer them that they haven't done before? And again, people's mindset has changed in the domestic market, and we have to be aware of that as well. You know, outdoors is massive now. People are really, really keen to do outdoor activities, and people want to have that interaction and something where they're not just walking around a park, because that's what we've been doing for the last year. So, you know, can you leverage those trends that people are searching for? And again, looking at Google Trends is a great way to see what people are actively searching for. Can you leverage those trends and maybe just pivot your offering a little bit? But within that then needs to come the informational side of it, where if you have pivoted your business, do your audience know? And are you actively targeting that a different audience? So if you're used to targeting an international audience, have you tweaked your offering on your website? Have you tweaked the language you're using? Have you thought about other keywords that you might want to use to target that different audience as well? And again, it is about price point. What an international tourism offering might be will be slightly different to domestic tourism, and you need to consider that as well. And I suppose it's that merge of, you know, whereas you might be a tour guide, you might be offering a full package where they get picked up on a bus and do all of this. People won't need that here. So it might be you just arrive at the time, but you offer a really nice lunch or something a little bit different, you know, to give people something a bit different within the domestic market. But it is about not only that offering, but also how are you getting that information out about that offering, and is your price point right for a domestic market as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So lots to think about, and it is such changing times. I mean, obviously we're hoping that the international market will be, you know, a really primary focus once again in soon. But for the moment, that domestic market and ROI market is I mean, it's the more realistic one for the time being, and where we're at. We had a couple of questions just about some of the new platforms, obviously, that you've mentioned in Clubhouse. Certainly, that's a new one to me. I only heard of TikTok for the first time during lockdown, so I'm my fingers maybe not quite on the pulse, but we did have a question asking what is the audience for TikTok? Are they very young? And I suppose another question on the same kind of ilk of that is, what's the best way to research which demographics are using these different platforms? Michelle, is there anything you can help with there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, TikTok, just to answer the question on TikTok, before lockdown, yes, very much almost teenager demographic, but that has changed over lockdown. We have seen an older demographic, I think much to the disgust of, of the younger market. We have seen an older market moving on to TikTok, which traditionally wouldn't have been there, but definitely is still a younger market. But if we think about it, this younger market are our future customers as well. So, you know, can we have a presence on there, because they are the people that are going to be looking in the next 5 years to travel, to avail of our experiences. So it is finding out that balance where it might not be your sole focus. You might want to have a presence on there, but generally, yes, a younger demographic than some of the other social networks. And in terms of how do you find your demographic, I mean, even just doing a simple Google search, you've got the likes of Facebook, which is probably around sort of 30-year-olds upwards. You've got LinkedIn, which is all business. So you're going to get a range of demographics on there. But the beauty with LinkedIn is you get opportunities to speak to actual decision makers. So if you're offering any sort of corporate package, you can actually talk to the person that has the ability to make that buying decision. You've got Instagram, which again, traditionally would be slightly younger than Facebook. You're probably talking your 20 somethings upwards, but again, there is a younger market on there as well. And if you have a very visual product or experience, it works really, really well. But it is, even just do a simple Google search and it will give you the key demographics and age groups that people are on there. But we are talking, if you're sort of 30 upwards, Facebook, Instagram, maybe a wee bit of TikTok, but nothing too crazy, and just being aware of where those audiences are. You'll also be able to, if you delve into your analytics in terms of if you are using Facebook, if you are using Instagram, if you are using Google Analytics on your website, dive into those analytics, because they will tell you where you're getting your customers from, especially if you've Google Analytics set up. You will see where your referral traffic is coming from, and you'll see straight away, oh, most of my traffic's coming from Facebook, most of my traffic's coming from Instagram, and then you can start to prioritize within that digital strategy of right, Facebook's my key market, that's where I'm focusing, but I will still do a little bit on these other channels, but that's where I'm going to focus my main efforts. And data, honestly, you can't underestimate the power of having that data. So if you don't have Google Analytics on the website, get it set up and do dive into your insights in Instagram, in Facebook, YouTube. The insights you can get is just absolutely unbelievable. So do use those as well, because that will give you a really good insight into where your traffic's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh goodness, so much, so much to think about. And I think it is. I think people are maybe a little bit afraid of those, like, you know, the kind of stats that you pull off, and oh, just all be very technical. There's no point in me having a look at those. I won't understand. But there's some of them would be quite sort of simple and intuitive.
And especially the social networks have come a long way, Patricia, in terms of how they portray those stats to you. So usually what you'll get is when you open those up is a dashboard which will be an overview. So you don't even need to go into the nitty gritty, but you can get that overview. And if in your Google Analytics, you can actually set it so that it sends you a report every month. And you can choose what you want to see, whether that be traffic or keywords or, you know, pages that people are accessing. But it is just about, you know, as I say, not getting afraid of it, not feeling panicked over it, just having, you know, a good look at it. And as I say, even just look at the overview version to start off with, because that will give you a really good, I suppose, direction of travel and vision. So for where your traffic is coming from.
Absolutely. You've talked quite a lot about Facebook and Instagram, and I think during your presentation you talked about some features that were on those. I suppose for people that maybe are not so kind of used to using those things all the time, how do you find out about what features there are? What are the best features to use? Is there an easy answer to that?
Yeah, no, I would say definitely Google search, and Facebook has its own full platform that tells you how to use every single feature step by step. Instagram the same, YouTube the same. So I would say go into the Facebook help, go into Instagram help, and it will actually tell you the features and step by step show you how to use them. And that's the best information you can get, because obviously Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and everything else, they want you to use those features. So they are going to give you the best information on how to use those. So I would say that's probably the first port of call, because that will tell you basically why you would be using them and how to use them. The hard part is then the creativity of what you're going to do with them once you've learned how to use them. How do you leverage them? But definitely there's a lot of resource out there around Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as well have its own full platform that will actually give you this information. YouTube's also a great source for finding out how to use features. Just type it into YouTube search and there will be someone who's made a video of it, I can guarantee you. I can't say how good that video will be, but there is a lot of information out there. And as I say, the best thing is actually just to go and do a wee bit of research and use the likes of Facebook or Instagram, the platforms themselves, to get that information.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose these things, there's always updates happening as well. So, you know, you could look at a video, but actually the features changed slightly, you know, and these things are, so when you open your Facebook and it suddenly looks different than it did the day before because they've done some sort of updates. So I suppose using the help on those actual platforms means you're going to get the most up-to-date information as well.
Yeah, and that they're constantly being updated on there. So it's, you know, and do you know what? Another good thing is actually look at what other people are using the features for. You know, there's nothing better than a wee bit of inspiration from having a look at, you know, it doesn't even need to be someone in the tourism sector. It could be someone that sells products, a blogger that you like, or something else. Have a wee look and see what other people are using the features and how they're leveraging those to their own channels and driving traffic. So it is, you know, a good source of inspiration sometimes just to have a wee look at what other people are doing as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely, absolutely. Actually, this is an interesting one because it's just in terms of the likes of the whiskey guy, the example that you used, and they have obviously set up a camera in order to do this, and someone's wondering about setting up a camera, how, for example, you would do that. But I suppose I would take this opportunity to remind people we've some previous webinar videos up, including one from yourself, Michelle, on producing and editing videos and that kind of thing. So it might be worth that person or anyone that's interested in that going back and having a wee look at those. But in terms of a sort of a short answer for today, Michelle, is there some advice you could give if you wanted to do something similar to that?
I haven't been on the Whiskey Man's tour. We were laughing earlier saying what a lovely job where you get to sit and chat to people and drink whiskey all day. Sounds perfect. But I would, I can see, I delved into his profile a little bit and it's all done via Zoom. So in terms of camera, I would say, I mean, what I'm using today is a 1080p webcam, and just because most laptops will have probably 720p, and what 720p means is most TVs that you'll see nowadays are the quality is what we call 1080p. So if you want a nice, clear, sharp picture, I would invest in, for example, a webcam that can access 1080p because most laptops aren't. And it's just basically USB, plug it in, position it wherever you want, and it gives you a nice sharp image. You're talking 30 to 40 pounds, so they're not a big, massive, expensive thing. But again, it'll just give you a sharper image than just using your laptop. But if you don't have the budget for that and you just think, no, I'll just go with my laptop, or you might have a really good laptop, just your laptop and Zoom and work away. But it is just, be careful just with your setting up of Zoom that you've got your security there, and if you write Zoom package as well, you might need to upgrade to, you know, the package that gives you a little bit longer than the free package, which is only 40 minutes. But that gent is just doing it by Zoom. So again, back to investment, it's his time and maybe a webcam. So it's a good opportunity to give it a go. You haven't a massive amount to lose. So I would say if you are thinking of it, give it a go and just, you know, start with your family, do a few sessions for them, do some for friends, you know, do some for business colleagues, and widen out that way and hone in your offering as well, practice your offering.
Yeah, absolutely. It never does any harm to have a little bit of practice, even on these webinars. We always come on early, make sure the camera's working, make sure we can hear each other, you know. So the technology always adds a slight extra element, but no, absolutely, have a go. What have you got to lose, as you said, Michelle? We've got someone who's just followed up here on, you know, obviously you mentioned in terms of if you're updating your website for the current situation, don't be deleting old pages, you'll lose your keywords. So just wondering, you know, if you don't want too much text on your website, should you just leave keywords, or should you leave the entire page but have it in the background, or what advice would you give there, Michelle?
I suppose it's really important to note that if you delete keywords or you delete content, you're effectively affecting your SEO. Because if you're already ranking for that keyword, and it might be an international keyword that you're not targeting right at this moment, but you still want to target in the future, I would say against deleting really anything, unless it's obviously something like an about us or something that's very key that you need to change, like a COVID message or something. So I understand what you're saying about not wanting loads of text on your website, but is there even a place where you could, you know, push that text down a little bit so it's not as prominent? Could you just add a smaller block of text? If it's a blog, could you maybe push the blog a little bit further in the search, rearrange your blog post? I would really advise, if you can possibly avoid it, not deleting keywords or text if you can, because again, Google may have already ranked you for that keyword, and you don't want to lose that. So I'd be very against deleting stuff if you can possibly avoid it, and maybe just adding a short paragraph, because remember, you might be in 6 months time, 8 months time, a year's time, you don't want that domestic on there, you take it off. But again, I would say try not to delete anything if possible.
Yeah, maybe finding a way, as you say, to kind of put it more in the background, or pushed down, so that it's not the first thing you see, but it still is there then. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, I know you don't want too much text on your website, but actually having text on your website does really help with your SEO as well. So just be mindful of that. So you may not want to have text on the homepage, or the About Us, but is there a blog section where you can have a good bit of text to help with that SEO, because you do need that as well to help Google understand what the website's about. So yeah, if you could just try and get that balance, it would be good. But what we would find is sometimes people will say, oh, I don't like my website, I just took it offline while I'm getting a new one, and you just think, oh no, all that hard work and that SEO you've done is gone, because once Google de-indexes a site or takes those keywords away, it's so hard to build them back up again.
Yeah, you'd be starting from scratch. And we've had a wee follow-up question there saying, can you hide a page? Can you have the keywords there? But would Google be wise to that? Would they, would you still lose that kind of keyword value?
You could hide the page, I suppose. Again, maybe Patricia, you don't mind if I come back to you on that one, because I'd like to double check just with the web team, because I want to be sure of that. I think once you hide the page, it's hidden from Google. It's like gated material. So say, for example, if you had a blog but you decided no, you wanted that to be a membership area and you needed people to log in to avail of it, Google won't see it because it's gated. So I think once you hide it, I would say it's probably the same as removing it, but I'll double check on that one. But
no worries.
I think it's probably, once it's hidden from Google as well, because you're basically telling Google this page isn't important anymore.
Yeah, that's fine. We can go back on that directly. I think we're just going to squeeze in one more question. With someone here just wondering about Pinterest. If you create a Pinterest page, can you just pop up all your content all at once, or is it better to kind of drip feed it? Just put up new posts and over time, or what would you recommend?
I would, if you've got loads of content, I would get it up there as soon as possible, because again, back to what we're saying about people being inspired and searching for the information. If you have loads of content but you're only putting it up every week or every month, well, people can't access that content. So if you have a load, I would put it up first and then continue to update it and add to it as you go. But definitely I would say, if you have it, get it up there first so that people can actually avail of it, enjoy it and use it, rather than you might have something that people are searching for now, but you're not going to put on for 3 months because you've decided to plan and schedule it out. I would say get it up there if you can. If you've got the time, get it up there.
Yeah, it means then you have a nice full looking page as well, for the starting point.
Well, that's it. And brand reputation too. People go, oh right, this person has loads of content on there. They're a viable business. They've been doing this for a while. So yeah, it helps with that reputation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Lots of great questions there today. So thank you so much, everybody, for all of those. And thanks, Michelle. We've worn your voice out there today, I think. As I did mention at the start, we are delighted to be offering a limited number of short one-to-one follow-up calls with Michelle. So these are open to tourism and hospitality businesses based in Northern Ireland, and they take the form of sort of a 15 to 20 minute session via phone, or maybe even just an email response, depending on what your question is. So if you would like to request a one-to-one with Michelle, then just send your name, company in question with your contact telephone number to industry.development@tourismni.com. Those emails come through directly to me, Patricia. So I can pass those on to Michelle. Now we do have limited capacity. There's only one of you, Michelle. So we can't guarantee a call back right away, but we'll always do our best to accommodate as many of you as we can, even if it's going to be a little bit of a delay before we can come back to you. Sure, we'll let you know. If by emailing through there, you would be giving me permission to pass your details on to Michelle, but that'll simply be for the purpose of coming back to you about this one particular query. It won't be held or used for anything else at all. Also, just a reminder that if you head to covid19.tourismni.com and click in the support centre, you'll find recordings and support materials from all of our previous TED webinars. And we did a number of digital ones, and Michelle did actually an e-commerce one for us just before Christmas there, which might be worth having a look at if you weren't at that one. So lots of really useful information there in the previous webinars tabs. There's recordings and the actual PowerPoint slides and some additional support materials as well. So do check that out if you haven't been in there, and in case there's anything that you've missed. As mentioned already, we'll get the recording up from today as soon as we possibly can, and we'll whiz you through a wee link to that. We also have another few TED webinars currently open for registration, so be sure to check the upcoming webinars tab as well while you're there. We have a new Brexit session taking place next week, and we'll also be taking a look at some people-focused webinars You might have already seen the business resilience one, and we're also going to be looking at culture and team, looking at people in relation to COVID-19 and people in the context of Brexit. So yeah, lots and lots coming up there, and we're constantly releasing new dates, and just keep an eye on the web listings and make sure you don't miss out on anything there at all. So I think really that's us for today. I think that's been plenty to think about and for everyone to take in. So all that remains is just to thank you once again, Michelle, for everything. Lots of valuable insights. Thanks so much. And thank you to everyone that's joined us here this morning, and look forward to welcoming you all back to the next one. So thanks so much, Michelle, and cheerio. Bye.